The
Shall
meeting.
I go, Jess?
Please, Chris, thank you for
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to start off and say that just listening to this conversation, this is like my dream transportation committee because of your knowledge, not only about mobility hubs, but also all the different types of transportation options that, you know, really over the past 15 years, it's been an unprecedented growth. If you think about e-scooters and e-bikes, car share, all of these options have changed pretty dramatically, transformed, as well as a kind of a new type of planning, which Rob talked about really active transportation being the lead and making streets accessible for all. So just briefly, my background in transportation is I was a special transportation coordinator for Benton County. So I designed their ADA system. And then over time, I got more involved in transportation options, including safe routes to school, student transit pass programs, and more policy work on that. And all of that fits well into our little firm called Cogito. And we do, as I mentioned, the public engagement for land use, economic, and transportation projects. And as Rob and Chris were ticking off projects in the area, I was just thinking like, well, I worked on South Willamette and I worked on the conversion of Willamette between 19th and 21st and High Street. We were involved in that too. So it's a nice, anyway, just feel like I'm kind of coming home a little bit. So pardon me if I'm waxing poetically. It's been a very long day. So I'm here because I am working with Lane County on a few bicycle or active transportation projects. One specifically is the Lane County Bicycle Master Plan. And we've been working on that for quite a few years. And Sue Wolling has been a key participant in that. So thank you again, Sue. Another project that Lane County is working on is East 30th Active Transportation Plan. And I'm here tonight because we've really just started to launch that process. So I don't have a lot of information for you, but I did want to highlight a few things, talk about an overview of the project, some of the key tasks, the timeline, and some input opportunities coming up. The project corridor, and John, I don't know if you're able to screen share what I sent to you earlier today. The project fact sheet. Would that be all right if we, because that might be the easiest way for us to talk about this. But the corridor that is under consideration, and I have a few caveats about that, is really from Hilliard up to McVeigh Highway. So up and over the Big Hill. But the jurisdiction changes in the corridors, so that the city of Eugene really has jurisdiction up around the bend, just a little bit past Agate, and then it becomes county from there all the way till McVeigh Highway. The cities, and also on Springfield side, the cities are coordinated on this project and they're part of the technical advisory committee. So while Lane County is focusing primarily on some of the infrastructure in that section, they will be coordinating, as I say, with the cities. So you don't just have a piece of potential design infrastructure that doesn't go anywhere. Like, you know, the bike path to nowhere is not going to be an option for this. So I may not have all the answers if you have questions, but I certainly, I would request that I can come back to you along with some other project team members and present next year when we have some alternative designs to get input. And so we'll work with you on that, but it would be really nice to circle around. The project. Do you
mind if I jump in for a second, Chris?
Absolutely.
So, you know, for the city, like we'd like to take what comes out of this process and use it as an opportunity to, at some point, sort of springboard into a redesign process for the part of 30th and Eugene, especially from, you know, Agate Street down to Hilliard, and look at it. How can we design it as a street that doesn't sort of separate the neighborhoods, but tries to knit them together more? Because right now it really feels like a throughway. So, you know, someday we'd like to redesign that street so it doesn't feel so unsafe for people to cross and to deal with some of just the speed issues on it. So just want to let folks know we're aware of some of the issues there, and we would like to have a biking connection to LCC, of course. That's all.
So that's just echoing the point that the City of Eugene, LCC, ODOT, and the City of Springfield are all on this technical advisory committee, really looking at this, looking at it as a whole of the corridor. So here in orange, you can see from Hilliard up and over to just McVeigh Highway, just short of I-5. And a couple things about the corridor. I mean, the main purpose of this project is really to improve the safety, comfort, and connections along 30th Avenue for active transportation. There are multiple speed zones on 30th. So you go from Hilliard to Onyx at 35 miles per hour, and you also have a school zone in there. Continuing up to Onyx to Spring Boulevard, you start ramping up, the speeds increase to 45. And then from Spring all the way down to McVeigh Highway, you have 55 miles an hour, in addition to some pretty significant topography. So this project actually is in the Lane County TSP from 2017. And they have been trying to get funding for it for quite some time through the state of Oregon. And then recently we're successful with the Central Lane Metropolitan Planning Organization to finally conduct an active transportation plan. So where we are right now, our first task was to develop, or is to develop, it's in draft form, existing conditions report. And that looks at how are people using the corridor today? What are the connectivity and level of comfort or stress for people who are walking, bicycling, rolling? So whether you're using an e-scooter or you might be using a mobility device, or those using transit as well as what are those opportunities to start improving. There's so much happening on that corridor in terms of recreational opportunities that are have expanded pretty dramatically in the past few years. So you have the Susan B. Arley Park by Lane Community College on the south end. And then on the north end, or on the north side, there's quite a bit of parkland that's being purchased. You have Moon Mountain, you have Coryell Ridge, and then you have Black Oak Basin. There's a lot of access to parkland in that area, let alone that key connection between Southeast Eugene, I-5, Springfield, Mount Pisgah, in that whole corridor. So it's a pretty exciting project. We're getting a lot of there's a high level of interest in the project right now. So as we're getting ramped up for our major public engagement, which is on June 2nd, that's the first part of this year, is a community visioning workshop. And John, I'm sorry to ask you to do this, but could you put that other ad up there that I sent to you? This will be an online meeting that'll go over the existing conditions and hear from the stakeholders on the corridor, whether you're through users, whether you're education, or whether you're recreation perspectives, residents, neighborhood associations on the corridor, to really help us understand, have we captured the issues and opportunities on the corridor, based not only on the data, but also, I think in your earlier conversation, there was some discussion about wildlife, for instance. We did find out there aren't too many crashes due to wildlife on 30th, but that's not to say that there aren't more, there isn't a high level of wildlife. And if there are pressures of development, that there more wildlife could be actually on the corridor. So I'm going to pause here just for a moment to see if there are any, oh, I forgot my big caveat. There are a series of focus groups coming up next week, and we had talked to John, I think I touched base with you about it. These are intended to be small conversations. We have 3 groups, and we're hoping to have someone from Southeast Neighbors participate. And in that meeting, it's really just trying to understand the project team's depth of understanding of some of the issues and opportunities on the corridor prior to the June 2nd meeting. And there are 2 rounds of focus group. First round of focus group will be next week. And then in winter of 2022, we'll come back together and look at some of the designs or some of the alternative designs for consideration. So I'm going to pause for a moment to see A, if there are any volunteers, and B, if you have any questions. Shall I call Jessica, or would you like to call them, folks?
Either way, I see Linda's hand, so.
Yeah, question, I'm not volunteering at this point, but I have friends who live in that neighborhood, and I believe Fairmont neighborhood and maybe a couple other neighborhoods are involved. And so there's 2 parts to the question. First of all, according to that map, it's really hard to distinguish if it's going to impact neighborhoods and how the trail would go through the neighborhood. And second of all, have those neighborhoods been alerted, and are they being invited? Because my friends know nothing about this. I mean, I was the first person that told them that this was even a possibility of happening.
So a couple things. One, I don't know if there's going to be a trail. Right now, that we don't have any design alternatives created. It could be, I don't know what it could be. There's a range of options that this potentially could happen. So that's just one caveat. I don't know where a trail would go right now. Secondly, yes, the neighborhood associations have been involved and have been notified. There is a major push coming out on Monday. There's a postcard mailing to 3,800 households adjacent to the corridor and near the corridor. You will start seeing lawn signs out on the corridor and approaching the corridor that highlight that this is an input opportunity. And then there'll be a press release coming out as well. In addition, we're doing some targeted outreach with a local Spanish-speaking organization called La ICIS. It's a Facebook Live news program. And so we'll be reaching out in that vein too, as well as an interested parties list, which the neighborhood association or the editors will be on it to forward. And that'll be coming out early on Monday as well. So Linda, there's nothing right now written in stone, but it's coming. And so one of the things I passed on to John was a we ad, and John, I don't know if we can pull that up right now. There we go. So, and I'll be happy just to forward you the actual Zoom link. Right now we're having people go to the website so they can sign up for the interested parties list, but I'll send you the Zoom link if you want to send it out to your group. That would be fine.
Awesome. So just to be clear, this June 2nd meeting is for anybody and anybody, and not just
everybody. No, really the intent of those focus groups really were just kind of a barometer test to see, did we miss anything before having a larger, pretty broad meeting? And we're anticipating it's going to be pretty significant, because if you think about the stakeholders on the corridor, from recreation, from education, from through users, from residents, from visitors, it's a pretty broad swath of folks.
Yeah, we can get this out. I think Steve had his hand raised. I don't know if you're volunteering or what.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what you were asking for in terms of volunteers, but I've been biking up that hill, and my wife and I walk that connection to the Ribbon Trail practically every day for the last 10 years. So I'm very passionately interested in the issues along there. And I think that connection with the Ridgeline Trail is another really fascinating piece of it. So to whatever extent I can help in any kind of neighborhood input, I'd be happy to do.
So Steve, could I consider that a hand raised for volunteering?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I'll follow up with you.
Dennis has his finger waving.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I'll represent SEN on that.
Excellent. So Dennis and Steve, that would be great. They're intended to be small groups. Again, the June 2nd will be a much larger meeting and much more opportunities for input. I did want to say one thing that's interesting about the corridor, this concept of 8 to 80. You have Oak Hill School at the end, which is pretty predominantly by vehicle drop off and pickup. You have LCC there that has a lot of transit service, as well as there are some ardent souls who bike that hill every day. You do have a connection from Susan B. Arley Park too, and there's a master plan there. This project is not going to, for instance, build a parking lot or build, but there might be some options for connectivity coming down the hill and then to Susan B. Arley and then the parkland to the left. I'm sorry, to the north of 30th. So if you're heading from Springfield to your right, that type of. So there's just a lot of opportunity and excitement around connections for this particular corridor. You also have Camas Ridge being rebuilt on 30th, and that's an opportunity to look at safe routes to school options there as well. So we're happy that the 4J capital manager is involved in the discussion. So may I ask one more question? And if folks want to put something in the chat, I do have quite a few lawn signs to get out. And what I find the best is getting suggestions from neighborhoods about where you would put a lawn sign to alert. These lawn signs will go out when there's an input opportunity, and then we'll pull them. So you'll see them again next year as a heads up. There's something happening in the project as well. So perhaps if you can let Jess know or let me know or put it in the chat where you think a good location for lawn signs. We'll do it at Spring. We'll do it at Agate. You'll see it on the Ridge Line or the Ribbon Trail. Maybe Albertsons if they let us.
Anybody have any additional comments? Doesn't Jory?
Yeah,
Is
I
that-
do. I had my hand up.
Oh.
So I was just wondering where the meeting is. I think you put the date and the time. You did put the location.
It's here.
Zoom.
It's a Zoom meeting.
Oh, then so you have to follow the link to find the link for the Zoom.
No, that's how we've been doing it because
Okay.
frankly, we don't want to keep producing lawn signs that are hard to recycle.
Sure.
So we drive people to the website. However, I will follow up with Jess and get you and John the Zoom link, and then that could be posted for
sure.
Southeast Neighbors.
Great.
So
That's
yeah, you're at the meeting right now. You're at the meeting location.
Okay. Thank you.
We're at peak
Are there-
Zoom in our world. If you guys aren't, I don't know if anyone is on Facebook, but if you are, that link, transportation links are posted there all the time on the Southeast Neighbors website or Facebook page. And so I encourage you to join that if you're on Facebook. And if not, we've got a Southeast Neighbors newsletter and MailChimp electronic mail that goes out. So be sure that you're on that. Contact us if you're not.
Wonderful. And shall I forward the information to John and you, Jess, to make sure that,
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
okay?
are you letting the media know too? I
Yes.
did the paper, the Register Guard and the Weekly?
Yes, so it'll go out through Devin Ashbridge, who is the public information officer for Lane County. So she'll be forwarding all that information
That's
out.
great.
And whether the RG picks it up, there seems to be a bit of a lag between the RG, but we'll definitely be reaching out to that. So just to follow up, Steve and Dennis, if possible, if I could get your emails, that would be great. If you want to put them in the chat, that would be ideal. And then I will follow up and send you the link to the focus group tomorrow.
Thanks for volunteering, guys. We have wonderful volunteers in Southeast Neighbors. For
You have a very knowledgeable committee on transportation. I
You can
present a
thank
lot
all
to
people
committees.
for getting us all involved.
That's great.
All
right.
Thank you so much, Chris, for coming. And you can leave if you want to leave your email address in the chat. You're welcome to
I
as well.
will, and I'm just copying down just a quick email addresses, and then I'll add that. And then again, we will be circling back early in winter to follow up on the proposed alternative designs.
Southeast Neighbors thanks you for your public engagement on this project and your outreach efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep it up. All right, so we're way over time, but we can quickly sort of just get a couple minute update from each of the transportation committee members, just to let the remaining neighbors, the brave few who are left, know what's going on. If you're interested, thanks for sticking around. We understand if you do need to leave, but we'll just give you quick updates, I promise. Like, can we keep it, 1 or 2 minutes each, so folks don't drift off even further. Steve is on the city's active transportation committee, as he said. Are there any updates, Steve, that we should be apprised of?
Well, I'll be real quick. This month, we've been very focused on May is Bike Month because it's May. And last year, there wasn't much activity. This year, we've been a little bit more able to have group rides with, social distancing, of course, and there are a lot of self-directed rides that are available, bike rides. So if you're interested, go to the bikelane.org or the city transportation website, and there's a lot of interesting rides available to connect with. And this month also, a lot of the members of the committee are also neighbors or parents of the Camas Ridge School that was mentioned. The Camas School redesign is going on. The preliminary design was presented, and some people were a little bit concerned about the fact that the current school has 40 parking stalls, that the proposed design is 75 parking spaces. And some of us felt that that's not in keeping with the city's climate action plan or, active transportation goals. And so we're communicating our feelings about that. And there's a Camas Ridge School Design Virtual Open House coming up on May 26th. So anybody's interested in hearing more about the design and commenting or asking questions of the architects, that open house is available to us all.
Sorry, questions for Steve? Thank you. Next, budget committee, that would be me. So I had the pleasure to serve on the LTD budget committee this year for the first time. And so I think that's a 3-year term. And so I'll get to see it through a little bit. It was, as we all know, a really interesting year for funding and so forth. And LTD's budget, reflects some cuts to service, but also, lots of federal funding that they're getting to sort of bridge the gap, that the slightly reduced payroll taxes, they're not as reduced as they had projected earlier. So that's good news for us all. And of course, we all know that fares sort of were put on hold for this year. And so their revenues were reduced, but they balanced the budget. And with the addition of the federal funding, the budget was looking in pretty good shape. And they're actually, planning for infrastructure projects and things of that nature, consultants. So it's, I don't want to say business as usual, but they're planning on ramping up service and doing returning to more regular service as it was in 2019 come fall. So it's not all doom and gloom for LTD, surprisingly. The impacts on our neighborhood, of course, are going to be, whether they resume the Transit Tomorrow planning that they had been ramping up before pandemic. And so the real message there that we've gotten is that they're going to be sort of auditing and surveying all the ridership on routes come fall when school returns. And so one thing our committee has discussed is that it's really important for our neighborhood to encourage ridership on buses as people are comfortable to be going back to the bus and riding the bus. If we want to keep routes, we're going to need the ridership. For this year, their focus was not on increasing the ridership, it was on maintaining health and safety. And so they're going to be reconsidering and starting to reconsider come fall. So it's definitely something our committee is keeping an eagle eye on, and lots of other things, other projects that, let's see, Rachel's not here. John, did you want to speak on like the mobility management program at all, or did you want to add?
Just, you know, LTD's got a super great planning department, and they're looking way ahead, and they're looking to figure out how do we evaluate all these different modes. You've got Arcimoto that goes 70 miles an hour, 2-passenger max. You've got scooters, e-scooters, e-bikes. Just you know, personal hovercraft down the road. They want to make this plan future proof. So they want a way of evaluating all these different modes and how they might get people from their starting point to their final destination, and where LTD ties into that. So real interesting project. It'll be fun to watch that develop. And yeah, we're keeping a close eye on that.
Linda.
I think John and I, well, and you, Jess, too, were at the LTD board meeting last night. And, you know, John's right. They're also planning to spend a lot of money for a consultant for all this. And I have my personal belief that that's not the business they should be in. They should stick to buses. But anyway, what I will say is that we are kind of breathing easy right now and staying on top of things. But at the very end of the meeting, Jess, which you missed, our friend came up with bringing up transit tomorrow again, ridership versus coverage. And so it's not dead. It's been buried for a while, but I think it will be resurrected soon. So, you know, to keep our neighborhood buses, we're going to have to stay on top of it like we have been, and then get as much support as we can around the city from other neighborhoods who might be impacted by elimination of their bus routes too. So, you know, it's been nice to have it not be the main topic of their meetings, but it's still alive. So just so people are aware of that.
Yes, it is still alive. It's been running under the sort of undercurrents of all their conversations, but they're not talking about it yet.
Well, at least not in public.
Yeah.
At least not in public. Let's put it that way.
So yes, that's important for neighbors to know that it's not completely dead, and get out there and ride the bus when you can. Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Any questions from neighbors in regards to LTD or either budget or current plans? What's happening with neighborhood transportation? Service has sort of slowly been rebuilding on the 24 and the 73. Like, you know, 28's been pretty regular through the pandemic. Of course, the 33 is still in play. That went away for a long time here. And so we're just watching to see, I think at this point, that come the fall bid, as they call it, where they sort of reorganize their schedules to accommodate the university students really when they come back.
That's exactly.
That these buses in our neighborhood also return to more normal service, and what they will look like then is what we'll need to be dealing with. So let us know and write to us, you know, and keep in touch. And you can also contact the board directly. And Don Norden is our Southeast representative on the LTD board. He's supposed to serve our interests, So we do encourage you to reach out, and we're in communication with him. But you're also encouraged to sort of CC the clerk of the board and the rest of the board members as well, if you do write to him, just for efficacy, we've found. Okay, Linda, one last thing.
Yeah, I just want to add that Matt Keating has been very interested in all the different projects and concerns of our neighborhood, and he's always willing to listen. You can email him or call him, and I just recently updated him a bit on this last board meeting and the LTD board meeting and things like that. So, you know, he is our representative, and he is very available. So I just want to encourage people to continue to contact him if you have concerns or need his support. And he tries to go to as many meetings as he can, but I know he's zoomed out too.
Poor man in all the meetings, right? All right. Did you want to share, do you have any updates on the information sharing with other neighborhoods, Linda?
Not really. I am kind of interested in seeing how this works out with the NLC to see, you know, if how they're gonna go with the idea we have to have other neighborhoods involved. And but I will continue to reach out too. I think that a lot of people out there, I think, just really haven't known what was going on with LTD. So I think it's more of a education situation. That's what my feeling is.
And just for filling in sake, there's, you know, we're trying to have our transportation committee sort of be in a constellation of transportation committees and be in communication with other neighborhoods in Eugene so that we have clear communication channels and we can work together on issues like the LTD one or whatever comes up. So Linda's been instrumental in helping us out there and getting that started. Does anyone need to, do we want to address the speeding questions, John? I don't think anybody's.
Let's do that for next month, and we'll try to get the radar unit guy to come and talk about how we acquire that.
Sounds good. All right, community members, you've been so patient. Do you have questions?
Yeah,
Karen.
Karen.
That you want to make as we're throwing all this information out? We would love to have you as part of our regular transportation team.
Well, I'll just say that I just really appreciate the meeting and you know, all the information that you get out via newsletter and emails and all. You know, as a community person, I've been following that, and I was really interested in the folks that you brought to this meeting tonight and the information received. So just appreciate that. I will, you know, try to attend more and see where I can plug in at some point, but yeah, appreciate all your efforts.
No question. We really appreciate you being here, and we'll continue with our third Thursday a month transportation meeting. I guarantee they won't all be this long. We just had a lot of special guests today. We don't usually have so many special guests. One if we're lucky, but 3. It's just amazing. Just all the planets aligned. What do you know? So Dennis, chair of the Southeast Neighbors, do you have any goods of the order before we wrap up?
Nope, nothing for the general audience here, but if John Q could possibly stay around, I have one question for him after everybody signed off. If he can do that, I'd appreciate it. Thanks everybody for participating. This is one of our premier committees here, the Transportation Committee, and it's been going on for, is it 2 years now, Jess?
20 months. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, 2.5 years. So I appreciate everybody sticking to it and all the hard work that you're putting into it. So thanks.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great night.
You too.
Hey, John Q.